Welcome back to another episode of Quintessential Mark Radio, QMR 2.0. I am your host, Ayala Nunez, and today we are going to be talking about a very touchy subject. And when I say touchy, not so much to the truthers out there who are exposing much of the propaganda, the lies, the agenda behind the scenes from the very elite who control or would like to market something otherwise than truth in itself. But it is a very touchy subject to the ancient archaeologists out there who praise and put sacred sites on the map and on a pedestal. And whether they do not know or whether there is a particular agenda tied to that, it's still under investigation. But the topic of main focus for today is essentially the Great Serpent Mound of Adams County, Ohio. The thing about the Great Serpent Mound in Adams County, Peebles, Ohio, is the fact that for me, personally, it was a site that had spoken out to me initially in February of 2012, which is funny to say in realization right now because this is essentially 10 years in the making. Right now, it's the end of January, and tomorrow is the very beginning of February. So this is something that happened 10 years ago, and that's quite a very prominent time frame because 10 years is something that you just cannot shake off. Many things have had happened in 2021, which actually occurred 11 years prior since, and that is also significant too as well. And the fact of the matter still remains is that this Great Serpent Mound, when it did call me through three dreams, and three dreams in particular I have found when it occurs at the Great Serpent Mound is that the number 3 is significant for its relationship to Lemuria, Mu, to the esoteric world, the mystery schools, Lemuria, Mu, to the Rosicrucians. This has a great significant meaning because of a storyline that the Great Serpent Mound is portraying truly from what it is. And it only can be seen from the skies. From ground level, it is just a bunch of mounds, just which inundate to and fro. And it seems to be like in an artistic fashion. But in a way, when you are only... Sometimes you have to figure out who your audience is, right? Especially so in the podcast world. But when you're performing great acts such as this, your audience is the sky. So they're giving great praise. The makers of the Great Serpent Mound are giving great praise to something of an entity above. So the makers of the Great Serpent Mound are essentially the Nephilm. The Nephilm, which are the giants of old. And for those of you who are new to this, it's very shocking information. For those of you who know exactly what I'm talking about, then, I'm preaching to the choir. And those people are essentially listening to this broadcast to figure out whether I am, going T for T as far as the information that they know from, several years of researching the Great Serpent Mound. There is so much to talk about with this particular episode, and that there are many things that I am missing out, which I want to make these broadcasts 30 minutes long, not too long for the human psyche. The human attention span is very, very, very short. That is the main reason why I had created articles for these podcasts. So if you would like to determine exactly what my forethought is, the message behind of what I'm talking about within this broadcast, I do have the link for the specific article that is also a portion of the articles within my blog, which is www.walkawayfromthenewage.com. And I do, in tandem with this, with broadcasting and marketing this podcast, please, by all means, please help support our network by tuning into our blog. But not only that, but also to tuning into our YouTube channel, our new YouTube channel at www.walkawayfromthenewage.com. realrevolutionradiotv.com. And this is all under the umbrella of the R3 TV network that we are launching here in Phoenix, Arizona. So continuing on with the Great Serpent Mound, I had 3 dreams. And all of these dreams came side by side in 3 days. And it was one after the other. 3 days consecutively in a row. And this was in 2012, back in February, 10 years ago. Okay, so a few weeks later, I'd say about 2 weeks later, I and my friend happened to be the very individual, along with her daughter, who are actually the very people who were the front page of my book, the Book of Positive Light. I am not here to promote that book. That book in itself is New Age and fashion, and I am not here to promote the New Age, but to essentially, tell the story of my testimony as I had walked away from the New Age to returning back to Christ. Okay, and so with that book, it essentially personifies everything that I am totally against today. And this is the reason why I'm telling you my testimony, because many people today are being deceived by this New Age movement, by this pagan New Age movement, which has never changed. It's nothing new, under the sun. This is essentially what the Bible has been forewarning people of these end times, which are these days that we know. And when I say these end times, it's not necessarily these last 3 years or this last year per se, but this particular range of years, this time period. We are the age of man that the Bible has been forewarning about, as far as these end of days. And when I say these end of days, the end of days of Satan, which is a conglomerate of demonic entities, including Lucifer himself. And I could be wrong with that, okay? Whether this Satan is one or this Satan is a conglomerate, collective of entities, or whether it's one or the other, it does not matter, okay? This is what the Bible has been against from the very get-go, and for which the biblical scripture has been forewarning of these particular end of days times, humanity during these range of years. And so with that being said, the very message that the Great Serpent Mound and Peebles is forewarning of us, or which is essentially telling us, it's a story of the beginning. And again, when I say it's a story, it's their story, his story. And that's what a history is all about, his story. The very entities of which have controlled the lexicon of events leading to what it is today. And when you have these organizations, cultures, collectives, societies which control and have won wars historically in the past, those are the very entities which control history. And so this Great Serpent Mound, which was created by these Nephilm, these giants, which are essentially the sons of the union, the procreation between the fallen angels and the women of men. This is essentially telling us that that this Great Serpent Mound is a storyline which depicts their history from beginning to end. And the beginning is as far as it pertains to this Serpent Mound in Ohio and Peebles, is this cosmic egg, which is essentially this Lemuria or Mu. And then you have this serpent head, which is actually swallowing this cosmic egg. Okay. And this cosmic egg, again, is the beginning of humanity, the creation of God the Most High. And then it has this inundating curvature within the serpent, which is essentially the many ages of man. And guess what? Towards the end of this Great Serpent Mound is the spiral. Now, the spiral is very significant in that it portrays the essence of portals, of gateways, the opening of entryways into another dimensional realm. Okay, and the spiral is very significant, especially so in Mesoamerican culture. Okay, when we make reference to that, many of the symbolism of Mesoamerican culture is found in Phoenix, Arizona. And that's where I am today. This is where this broadcast is essentially being published to the world from the city, from the state in Phoenix, Arizona. And so here we are, 10 years later. We are here at the very precipice of why I had experienced the Great Serpent Mound 10 years ago. Okay. And it's quite significant because it has a parallel, a connection to the Anasazi of Chaco Canyon, where throughout Chaco Canyon, you can see many depictions of the spiral within their artwork on the walls. And this leads us to Mesoamerica, to the great three civilizations of Mesoamerica, the Aztecs, the Inca, and the Maya, correct? And so amongst these three great cultures, they worshipped the same entity with many different names. To the Inca, this entity was known as Amaru Meru. To the Quiche and upper Andean mountains, this entity was known as Huiracocha. To the Maya, this entity was known as Kukulkan. To the Aztec, this entity was known as Quetzalcoatl. Okay, and all of these names, you're asking yourself, well, they're different names, different cultures, but you're telling me what exactly? I'm telling you this: all of these names, Quetzalcoatl, Huiracocha, Amaru Meru, Kukulkan, these are all different names which personify one entity, Lucifer. Okay. And the very Anasazi themselves, the very fall of the Anasazi was essentially from their tapping into several gateways, entryways, portalways into the demonic realm. And when you see depictions of the demonic realm, this collective, okay, I would have to say that this collective is like a legion of the demons, the demonic realm, for which exemplify what this Satan and Lucifer is all about. And to the modern day man, okay, and to post-Mesoamerican culture, we have Amaruca or America. They are all the same. Amaruca is the ancient name of America. And the same thing holds true. The very God that for which New Agers, pagans personify as God the most true is Lucifer, is Satan. Do you see what I'm saying? There's a propaganda here, an agenda that is laid out to change the history. It almost relates to the whole mud flood ideology of Tartaria, where the proponents, the very individuals, like I said earlier, the ones who control history, the ones who have won wars, are the ones who control the very essence of how history is said and done to portray a particular truth to their own his story. Do you get it? And that is exactly what is happening here with the Great Serpent Mound. Okay. There are many things that are associated with the mound in itself. If I didn't mention it earlier, there are many ancient archaeologists out there who praise this Great Serpent Mound as the grand stage of what belief systems are based upon. And to say that the Great Serpent Mound is something which is an exemplification of what is good, guys, for those who are just at the very verge of their beginning stages of researching all of this information, I have to tell you, be careful of what you watch. Be careful of what you read. The propaganda out there is to portray that that Lucifer is the good god, and he's not even a god. And to tell you the truth, to even call him a demigod, I'm not even going to put him on that stage. Okay, this Lucifer, this Satan, the demon realm, is evil. Okay, and so there is an agenda out there. I can go to many different subject matters concerning that, but I'm going to go and divide these topics individually, so it becomes easier to digest. Because again, for those of you who are just tapping into this world, it can be very confusing. So to take it in, one thing at a time is the best route to acquire this knowledge, this wisdom that I am publishing towards the masses for you, so that you cannot be baited, so that you too cannot bite the bait of the demon, the great beast, which essentially is the master of this world. 2 Corinthians 4:4. 2 Corinthians 4:4 is something that you need to check out biblically within Scripture. The God of this realm is Satan himself. For the ones who do not see the glory of God Almighty, but rather they see the deception that is occurring parasitically throughout the world today. Much of the architecture which surrounds the Great Serpent Mound is the swastika. And the swastika, when you check out the bread trail to that, it leads to the Hindu religion. The Hindu religion is another source of which provides a great deal of deception to as well. For the time of the post-Diluvian era with the great flood, the reason for the flood and why God the Most High had induced the great flood unto the world is to get rid of these giants, the very entities who had created the Great Serpent Mound. And because of that, there was a great deal of procreation between the fallen angels and the women of men, and not only with women of men, but also the animals of this world, which have created these hybrid animal beings throughout the world. And these hybrid beings can be seen essentially from the Egyptians, the Great Pyramids of Giza, okay, Mesoamerica with their kachinas, okay, the Hindu religion, okay, and the list goes on and on. These half-breeds are essentially depicted throughout the world, and it's just amazing how people cannot discern between what is righteous and what is not. And this is something of a dilemma that we have seen from day to day when being exposed to a history that is deceptive and manipulated. Okay. And so my story further goes on and how this entity in itself, this Lucifer, the Satan, has tried to manipulate my direction and going away from Christ and moving towards this Luciferian doctrine. And this happens to be so when I and my ex-wife, things happen, marriages fall, civilizations fall. But during that time period of my life, that particular chapter, my wife at that time, we went to Chichen Itza in Mexico, and on the way to this pyramid, this Aztec pyramid, which has been depicted many times throughout several movies, including Conan the Barbarian, one of my favorite movies. Well, we headed out there, and on the way to Chichen Itza, we saw this symbolism in the sky, this right-angled symbolism, which portrayed itself as like a number 5 with sharp corners. And I remember previously, I would have to say 30 minutes prior to I and my wife witnessing the symbol in the sky, we remembered that the tour guide on the bus was talking about this symbolism, and he handed out several printouts of this symbol, and then we pulled it out from our bag, and it was a good thing that I took a picture of this symbol in the sky. I don't have that particular image for the moment. I would have to look into my archives. And actually, it's in my book I had written, the Book of Positive Light. But anyway, we found out that this image was the exact thing, exact topic that the tour guide was talking about. And this symbol was exactly the image of the very entities that we were talking about. Quetzalcoatl, Amaru Maru, Kukulkan, Huitlacocha, Satan, Lucifer himself. And so at that time, as New Agers, I and my wife, we were telling ourselves, wow, we are blessed by the heavens, by the gods. And when we speak of gods, demigods, the demonic realm, the entities, the principalities of darkness, okay, biblically speaking, in Scripture. And so the list just basically goes on and on as far as how Satan, Lucifer, has attempted several times to misguide us in many ways, to making things look very pretty, very beautiful, glittery. And we are often at times distracted, diverted. Our attentions are essentially redirected in a certain way, which is false. And that is the New Age. That is Satan, the great counterfeit. Okay? And so, with that said, I don't want to get into too much detail, into too much time, because essentially that is what is the message behind what my article is presenting to you. Okay, and to provide more of a support of legitimacy to what I am talking about when I say that the Great Serpent Mound exemplifies or was actually created by the giants. Well, the shaman whom we followed during our trip to Machu Picchu, Peru, during the autumn equinox of 2012, we journeyed out to Sacsayhuaman, which is a fortress, a megalithic fortress made of megalithic stone, and for which these stones are huge in comparison to what we can put together as human beings individually, minus the technology. But these stones are so gigantic, megalithic in proportion, that when you look at the very site in itself, each megalithic rock is molded together precisely to where you cannot put anything, any piece of paper, any blade in between each rock, because it's so precisely built together in piece. And I asked the shaman that we followed, who built this? Who created this? And of course, the shaman, through oral tradition, told us as a group, this fortress in itself was created by the giants. The giants from Lemuria, from Mu. The very place, the Garden of Eden, so to speak, what I mentioned earlier from the beginning of this broadcast. Okay? And so I am not the only one who is mentioning this. Okay? I am stating this as in parallel to many other researchers, many truthers out there who are stating this to be a fact. And this all gravitates to what I'm really laying out within this broadcast. It's a relationship to the underworld, to what can be called the hollow earth, and the very community of which essentially praises the Great Serpent Mound. Okay. Again, I don't want to mention names for the most part, but the whole entirety, the message of this broadcast is to provide the relationship so that many people who are guided to the Serpent Mound, for whatever reason, that they too can acknowledge the true reason of why they are there, to expound upon the truth. And the truth is this: there is a relationship between the Great Serpent Mound and the hollow earth, the underworld, and there is either a portal way or an actual legitimate within the flesh entryway to the underground caverns, a citadel per se, which leads to the hollow earth, and the community of which praises the Great Serpent Mound there in Adams County, Ohio, is hiding the fact that there is that connection. Now, is there a coincidence, or is it synchronicity per se, which pertains to a systems theory approach within my investigative journalism, to say that there is actually a monument there which depicts the significance of this hollow earth theory? Well, I would have to say yes. This particular monument is found in Cincinnati, not too far away from the Great Serpent Mound. And it is a monument dedicated to the life of his research, John Sims Jr. Yes, it's John Sims Jr. He was a lecturer back in the early 1800s who was promoting the idea of a hollow earth theory. Okay, and there is a monument dedicated to his hollow earth research not too far away from the Great Serpent Mound. And I got to tell you, what is the odds of something like that being built not too far from the Great Serpent Mound? Okay, I would have to say that there is a great relationship to that and the very storyline that I'm telling you in testimony. There's a relationship here. There's something that is happening, and there is a truth that is hidden and for which must be laid out in the forefront. And from other interviews, such as mine with Jim Vieira from a few years ago, I believe it was in 2017 on a podcast when this particular brand was called Quantum Mindfulness Radio. I did interview Mr. Jim Vieira, and we talked about the giants of old, the Nephilm, and then how the predominance of several Nephilim relics, okay, these giants skeletons are just riddled throughout the United States. And of course, the main premise of this broadcast is to also reveal, to expose the lies that the Smithsonian has been providing to the masses, and that they have no idea of what happened to these skeletons, when indeed many people in North America have provided these skeletons, these gigantic Nephilim skeletons in excess of 13, 15, 20 feet to the Smithsonian. Because these people, these farmers, these regular people, folks of the land, they retrieved these skeletons and then, of course, brought them to an authority in archaeology, which was the Smithsonian. And how the Smithsonian could essentially state to the masses, to the public, okay, and that no particular skeleton was delivered to them is just a debauchery of not only humanity but also of just righteousness. And this essentially goes against the Bible. And so, with that said, the actual article goes greatly in depth and detail. And once more, if I have missed anything as far as relates to the details of that article, well, please, by all means, please check into that article. I will have the link for you to connect with after this broadcast, if you so choose to go into that rabbit hole. Okay, but at the end of the day, at the end of that article, besides knowing all of this information, we must be right with our Creator. We must praise the Creator and less the creation. For if we praise the creation more than the Creator, you are now being baited to tap into the New Age world of ancient paganism. Nothing new under the sun. And with that said, please help support our network by subscribing to our new YouTube channel at www.realrevolutionradiotv.com. And if you would like to chime in to the many other articles that I have written as of late from the past 6, 7, 8 months since being saved by Christ, please, by all means, you can log into that at www.walkawayfromthenewage.com. Thank you so much, dear ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in. We'll see you next time on the next episode of QMR 2.0. God bless.